What if the love that found you isn't a beautiful accident but a clear assignment? What if the person who appeared at the right time is actually the answer to an old prayer, maybe one you forgot you prayed? Some connections feel too precise to be random. The conversation flows as if you've known each other for years. The coincidences line up like tiny lighthouses, and you grow in weeks what would have taken you years alone. That isn't random luck. That is commission. It's heaven saying, your love is not coincidence. It is your spiritual mission. Maybe you've tasted the opposite. Firework romances that burn bright and fade to ash. Promises to yourself that next time will be different, only to shrink, doubt, and tire out. You're not broken. You're becoming discerning. Your heart is learning the difference between loud chemistry and steady calling. Chemistry alone is a spark that flares. Mission is a flame that sustains. When love is mission, peace grows alongside passion. Your best self begins to emerge, not to perform for them, but to honor a larger meaning, a union that transforms both of you and overflows into the world. There are signs, and you already know some of them. Accidental meetings that repeat too often to be chance. The same message echoing through songs, books, and conversations. Doors opening with a grace you can't explain. A quiet calm that stays even when real differences show up. Mission love doesn't dodge conflict, it reframes it. It's no longer me versus you. It becomes us versus the wound. Suddenly, apologies arrive faster, bridges replace walls, and agreements aren't made just to stop a fight. They're made to grow. In mission love, forgiveness isn't humiliation. It's a construction tool. In this message, I'll guide you through a simple, deep path. First, how to separate calling from chemistry so you stop confusing the two and start choosing with clarity. Then, how to read guidance without superstition. Next, how this love becomes both mirror and medicine for old patterns. How to craft a shared mission that answers why you exist together beyond romance. How to guard the sacred with wise boundaries. And finally, how to let your love overflow. Because true mission always reaches beyond the two of you. If your chest just opened while reading this, it's because this message reached its address. Do two small things right now to seal your intention. Subscribe so you don't miss the next steps that deepen this journey, and comment mission below. Typing mission is a small act with big effect. It's you telling yourself and heaven, I choose to treat my love as purpose. Breathe. What feels complicated becomes clear when you know where to look. And there's one key that unlocks everything. A single question that prevents old pain and invites the kind of peace that lasts. How do you tell the rush of chemistry from the call that sustains? Once you can answer that, your heart stops chasing sparks and starts walking with the flame that lights the whole road. There's a reason some connections roar like fireworks while others glow like a hearth. Both feel alive and quicken the pulse, but only one is still warm at dawn. Chemistry is the spark that leaps out of the match. Calling is the steady flame that remembers what the fire is for. Chemistry makes you think, I can't stop, while calling makes you know, I can keep going. When love is part of your spiritual mission, it doesn't just excite your senses. It organizes your life. It doesn't merely pull you closer. It pulls your future into alignment. The fastest way to tell the difference is to listen to yourself after the high fades. Chemistry alone often leaves a jitter, an edge of obsession dressed as romance, a restless hunger for the next message, the next rush. Calling leaves you centered. The world doesn't suddenly turn pink. It turns clear. Your appetite returns, your sleep steadies, your focus sharpens. You aren't escaping your life. You're finally willing to live it well. You can see it in the mirror. With chemistry only, you spend energy trying to be chosen. With calling, you begin choosing yourself, your values, your truth, your path, and paradoxically, that makes the connection safer rather than weaker. Mission love has a tone you can hear and a shape you can feel. Its tone is honesty spoken gently and early, even when the subject is uncomfortable. Its shape is a circle that holds both of you while leaving space at the center for something larger than either ego, God, meaning purpose. In chemistry only, hard conversations feel like threats and get postponed. In calling, hard conversations feel like doors and get opened, perhaps clumsily at first, but with courage. Chemistry is loud at the beginning and faint when it's time to do the work. Calling may arrive quietly and grow louder when growth is required. Notice what happens to your world around this person. If your life shrinks, healthy rhythms fade, work suffers, friendships thin, boundaries blur, you're feeding a flame that only consumes. If your life widens, habits get cleaner, friendships deepen, prayer or reflection becomes truer, work steadier, you're not being eaten by the relationship. You're being escorted toward your purpose. Watch character more than charm in the small places where truth lives, whether promises are kept, whether apologies repair instead of manipulate, whether consistency appears when no one is watching. Also watch the pace. Mission protects itself by refusing the sprint. Intimacy deepens, trust is tested, boundaries are negotiated. The deliberate rhythm isn't lukewarm, it's stewardship. And listen for the quiet bargain inside. Ego pleads, choose me so I can feel enough, while calling whispers, let's choose truth so we can become who we're here to be. Ego demands constant proof. Soul looks for fruit, more kindness, more courage, more integrity, more service. If you want a test you can feel in your bones, try a simple ritual the day after you spend time together. Sit with a pen, breathe slowly, and tell the truth in one clean sentence for each reflection. After we're together, what actually grows in me? Anxiety and vigilance, or peace and clarity? Who am I becoming around them? Someone who hides better, or someone who listens, tells the truth, and stewards their gifts? And what our connection blesses besides our feelings, only our dopamine, or also our families, our work, our community, our walk with God. Your body can help you hear what words try to blur. Sit upright. Place one hand over your heart and the other over your lower belly. Breathe slowly, whisper their name, and notice what happens. If your breath shortens, shoulders rise, jaw tightens, and thought speed, your system is saying, I don't feel safe yet. If your breath deepens, shoulders drop, and the mind clears, your system is saying, I can be here. The body isn't a judge, but it is a witness. And witnesses keep us from betraying ourselves. Because this love is an assignment, it naturally reaches for alignment. You won't match on every preference, but your non-negotiables begin to rhyme. Truth before image, repair before punishment, service before spectacle. Apology stops being a bargain to silence conflict and becomes a bridge that carries both of you forward. The calendar shifts from tug-of-war to a plan that protects what matters. You notice you're braver in the right ways and softer in the right places, and that your private prayers now sound like a huddle instead of a solo monologue. That is how calling feels in practice, not a constant high, but a stable updraft that lifts both lives without tearing either to pieces. When you can feel this difference without arguing with yourself, guidance around you starts to line up, patterns echo, doors open and close with precision, and the days carry the same quiet signature the heart already recognized. Once you can feel the difference between noisy chemistry and steady calling, something curious begins to happen around you. Patterns that used to look like random static start arranging themselves into sentences. The right song plays at the exact wrong moment to be mere chance. A phrase you underlined years ago appears in a stranger's post the same morning you almost gave up. A number taps your shoulder twice in one day, then again tomorrow, and you realize it isn't trying to impress you. It's trying to organize you. Guidance doesn't arrive to make you superstitious. It arrives to make you responsible. It invites you to pay attention with humility, to write down what you heard, and to move one honest step at a time in a direction that has peace in it. The language is subtle because love that is also mission does not need to shout. It prefers coherence to spectacle. You'll notice how the inside and the outside begin to rhyme. What your conscience has been whispering matches the opportunity that opens. The value you've been afraid to name is the very boundary a circumstance now demands. The question you carried all week is answered by someone who didn't know you were asking it. The test of real guidance is not how dramatic it looks, but how it leaves you. False signals make you frantic and grandiose. True signals make you quiet and brave. You don't feel inflated. You feel anchored. You don't crave a spotlight. You crave a clear next step. Because your heart has a history, symbols will meet you where you live. If the same word keeps repeating, copy it exactly as it came and hold it up beside your story. If certain times or numbers greet you again and again, link them to a practice rather than a theory. Every time you see them, Breathe once, recall the value you promised to honor, and take one small action that keeps the relationship aligned with who you are becoming. If a dream hands you a phrase that sounds like it belongs to the daylight, don't debate it in bed. Carry it to paper before coffee and let the morning prove whether it was fluff or direction. You aren't collecting curiosities for a shelf. You are gathering instructions for a life. The mind will try to complicate what the soul keeps simple. It will ask for guarantees for a 5-year map, for ironclad signs that could convince a courtroom. But guidance rarely gives you the entire staircase. It offers you today's step and asks you to walk it in good faith. So you journal the first sentence that feels true. You speak it out loud in a room that stills the noise, and you submit it to a wise voice that loves your future more than your feelings. If peace deepens as you do this, you are hearing well. If drama swells and you feel the need to manipulate outcomes to make the sign come true, you are no longer listening. You are negotiating. Mission love will always braid the mystical with the practical. A door may swing open, but character must turn the handle. A date may land like destiny, but calendar and budget and sleep must learn to agree. You will notice that the confirmations which matter most do not cancel reality, they cooperate with it. Values match. Patterns of truth appear. Repair after conflict becomes normal instead of rare. You're able to say what you mean sooner and ask for what you need without performing. That alignment is a sign as sacred as any feather on your path. There will be days when nothing obvious happens, and you will be tempted to declare the heavens silent. On those days, guidance sounds like your own integrity. You keep the promise you made. You act the way you said you would act when you were clear-headed, and you treat the relationship as a temple even when there are no fireworks. You will be surprised how many so-called miracles arrive right after a week of unglamorous faithfulness. If you fear getting lost in patterns and missing the person, remember that the point of signs is not to be stared at. It is to help you walk straight. The more you act on authentic guidance, the less you need constant reassurance. A rhythm forms. Notice, write, pray, or reflect. Check with truth, step. The rhythm itself becomes a compass you can trust when emotions surge or quiet. And if a sign ever invites you to betray your conscience, deaden your empathy, or hide in the dark, you can lay it down without guilt. Anything that requires you to shrink is not carrying the voice you're following. As these gentle confirmations gather, they will lead you to the threshold where all real guidance eventually points, the places inside you that still ache. Mission love does not merely tell you where to go. It shows you what still needs healing so you can get there without breaking what you're building. The same patterns that affirmed your path will begin to highlight the patterns that keep you small. That is not a detour, that is the doorway. And stepping through it is how love stops being a theory and becomes medicine. Every mission asks for a passport, and love stamps it by showing you the places inside that still need a border crossing. The same tenderness that makes you feel seen will, sooner or later, hold up a mirror to your oldest patterns. Not to shame you, but to free you. When love is only chemistry, that mirror is unbearable, so you hide from it and call the hiding compatibility. When love is calling, the mirror becomes medicine. You notice how quickly you brace when a certain tone appears, how your body remembers nights when nobody stayed, how a tiny delay in reply awakens a storm that has nothing to do with this day. Mission love doesn't scold the storm. It invites you to learn its weather. You realize that the tightness in your chest is not a verdict against your partner. It is a signal from a younger version of you who still believes safety must be earned. And instead of performing harder, you begin to breathe deeper and tell the truth about what is happening inside you. Because truth is the only thing love can work with. There is a holy moment that returns in every great relationship. The moment you pause before the reflex and choose to reach for connection rather than for control. The temptation is always the same: defend, disappear, or dominate. But you begin to practice a different sequence. You pause long enough to hear yourself. You let your words come from the body rather than from the courtroom in your head. You name the need without turning it into an accusation. You own the impact of your tone before listing the evidence of theirs. You offer a concrete repair or ask for one in plain language. And before the conversation closes, you bless the future you want to live together by saying how you will handle it next time. Said simply, you trade cleverness for clarity. You stop trying to win and you start trying to heal. The miracle isn't that conflict disappears. It's that it begins to leave you stronger than it found you. This is where mission love turns your history into a classroom rather than a prison. Old memories surface not to drown you, but to be retold in a room where love does not abandon its chair. You hear yourself describe the moment you learned to expect too little, and you see in their eyes the grief of someone who never wanted you to carry that alone. The room itself feels different after that, quieter, warmer, more honest. You still disagree, sometimes fiercely, but the disagreements are not exit ramps. They are corridors that lead to deeper rooms. You notice that apologies arrive sooner and land thicker. "I'm sorry" stops being a broom to sweep discomfort under the rug and becomes a beam that strengthens the house. Forgiveness stops feeling like humiliation and starts feeling like power, because you can sense how much life is returning to your chest when you let go of the old story that everyone eventually leaves. Healing is not abstract. It has weight and texture. The first evening you admit you are afraid and the other person doesn't flinch. A muscle you didn't know you had finally relaxes. The afternoon you choose to tell the embarrassing truth rather than the impressive half-truth. You watch shame shrink in the light. The morning you resist the urge to punish with silence and instead say plainly what you need. You feel how dignity and tenderness can live in the same sentence. Slowly, the home you are building together becomes a clinic where both of you are healer and healed. Some days you hold the stethoscope. Other days you are the one on the table. Neither role is permanent, and both are sacred. What makes this work sacred is that it does not stop at your comfort. Medicine that only numbs is not medicine. It is delay. Mission love is interested in transformation, which is why it keeps leading you back to the practices that build muscle in the right places. You begin to notice how often a kind tone does more than an ironclad argument, how a 5-minute check-in at the end of a long day prevents a 5-hour misunderstanding on the weekend, how going to bed with peace, even when the issue isn't fully solved, protects the bond better than staying up to win the last word. You see, too, that tenderness without truth is as unhelpful as truth without tenderness, and you learn to carry both at once, speaking plainly without the poison of contempt, listening fully without the performance of martyrdom. This is not personality polish. It is soul craftsmanship. As this craftsmanship matures, the relationship stops asking, "How do we avoid pain?" and starts asking, "How do we turn pain into wisdom?" You stop reading every hard moment as a sign that you chose wrong and start reading it as a sign that you are being invited to grow right here. Small patterns shift first. You reach for each other's hands sooner. You schedule rest before collapse. You ask for help before resentment builds a case. You celebrate repair with the same enthusiasm you once reserved for chemistry. Big patterns follow. You trust yourselves in storms you used to fear, and you begin to see how your private healing is already preparing you for public purpose. That is the quiet brilliance of the mirror that became medicine. It does not end at self-soothing. It graduates into shared strength. Two people who can name a wound without worshipping it are two people who can carry a mission without breaking under it. Your story is no longer the list of what happened to you. It is the record of how love met you there and taught you to breathe differently. And once your breath is steady, you are ready for the next passage of the journey, the one where love that has healed begins to aim. Healing makes room for formation, and formation asks a beautiful, demanding question. If this bond is not coincidence, what are we here to build together? Healing gives you your breath back. Alignment gives that breath a direction. There comes a moment when two people who have looked honestly into the mirror and taken the medicine feel a new kind of energy under their feet, like wind waiting for sails. That is the moment to name why this love exists beyond the two of you. Not a slogan for social media, not a grand production, but a clear sentence that you can whisper in a kitchen at midnight or repeat in a car before a hard meeting. When love is mission, it wants form. It wants language sturdy enough to hold the days when feelings wobble. It wants an intention simple enough for a child to understand and strong enough to carry you both through weather. Begin where truth lives, in your ordinary life. Notice the themes that keep returning when you are most yourselves. How you host people and they leave lighter. How your conversations drift toward mentoring. How you both calm rooms in crisis. How you care for beauty, children, elders, ideas. Take those threads and weave a single line that starts with, "We are together so that," and ends with the kind of impact you would be honored to leave behind, even if no one knew your names. Speak it aloud and watch what your bodies do. If shoulders drop and breath deepens, you have found something real. If it sounds pretty but leaves you tense, keep refining until the sentence feels like home. That one line is not poetry. It is a compass. You will use it when you choose how to spend money, where to live, which invitations to accept, which conflicts are worth staying up for, which battles are ego and which are sacred. Once a compass is in your hands, the calendar stops being a tug of war and becomes a tool. Alignment is not a feeling. It is a rhythm. You carve a small, regular moment each week where you put your lives on the table, not to audit each other, but to bless the work and tell the truth. Some couples light a candle. Some take a slow walk. Some sit with coffee and a notebook. The form is less important than the spirit. This is our huddle. You celebrate what went right. You name what hurt without contempt. You choose one tiny course correction you can actually keep. And you end by speaking hope over the week you are about to live. 5 honest minutes here often prevent 5 avoidable hours of misunderstanding later. And on months that feel heavy, you add a little room for dreaming so the mission remembers its horizon. A museum afternoon because wonder makes you kinder. A phone call to the aunt who raised you because gratitude keeps you grounded. A small act of service together because giving resets what taking cannot. Alignment also means agreeing on how you will behave when pressure rises, because pressure always comes. Decide now in clear air what you will be like then. You can say to one another without theatrics, that truth comes before image, that repair comes before punishment, that no one weaponizes silence, that you will step away to breathe rather than escalate to win, that you will not recruit outsiders to take sides against your partner, that decisions about money and time will be made in the light. These are not laws nailed to a wall. They are promises you make for the days when your nervous systems forget what love already knows. And if either of you stumbles, and you will, you agree to return quickly, not with speeches, but with ownership. This is what I did. This is how it landed. This is how I will protect us next time. In a mission, apologies are not currency. They are scaffolding. As purpose takes shape between you, it begins to ask for a container in the world. Perhaps your home becomes a soft landing for a niece between apartments, or a table where friends who disagree can still eat together, or a studio where your crafts grow into offerings, or a Saturday morning where you teach a handful of teenagers the skills no one taught you at their age. Do not despise small containers. They are training grounds where character stretches to fit calling. If the sentence you wrote is true, you will feel it reverberate even in a 1-hour volunteer slot or a simple monthly gift to a cause you both believe in. Impact is measured first by fruit in you, more patience, more courage, more joy, before it is measured by numbers outside you. When the fruit is there, the scale grows on its own. Alignment does not erase difference, and it does not demand sameness. It gives difference a place to stand without pulling the house apart. You will still prefer different tempos, different kinds of rest, different ways of thinking out loud. Let the mission be the river that holds those stones in one current. On weeks when one of you is exhausted, the other can carry the rhythm and no one keeps score. On days when creativity flows through one and not the other, you both celebrate as if the win belonged to the team, because it does. Alignment teaches you to stop managing each other and start managing the ecosystem that sustains the love. Sleep that makes you humane, food that keeps you kind, movement that shakes off static, prayer or reflection that cleans the lens, conversations with elders who love your future more than your pride. There will be choices that seem purely practical, but are actually spiritual. A job offer with more money and less presence. A move that promises status but severs community. A habit that looks harmless and eats the hours you need to become who you said you would be. In those moments, you return to your sentence. You ask with reverence whether this choice serves or siphons the life you are building. If you cannot agree immediately, You do not force consensus by fatigue. You buy time with tenderness and let wisdom catch up. Mission love is not afraid of slow answers. It knows that a yes given too quickly can cost more than a patient no ever would. Do not worry about writing a perfect manifesto. Draft in pencil. Sign in ink with daily acts. Let your mission breathe and evolve as you do. When a new child arrives, or an aging parent needs care, or an unexpected door opens, the sentence can stretch without breaking because it was never about performance. It was about purpose. Read it aloud on anniversaries and on Tuesdays that feel ordinary. Tuck it into the front of your shared journal. Tape it inside a kitchen cabinet where only the two of you will see it when reaching for a glass. The point is not to impress the world. It is to remember yourselves. If this sounds quiet, that is because real alignment is. It is less fireworks and more sunrise. You wake one morning and realize the house you are building together carries your voice even when neither of you is speaking. You move through a hard week and notice that the rules you chose in peacetime protected you in battle. You look back over a season and see that your love did not just keep you company, it kept you aimed. And precisely because you are aimed, life will test that aim. Scarcity will knock. Misunderstanding will try to bend your sentence into self-protection. Temptation will whisper shortcuts that trade long-term purpose for short-term relief. None of this means the mission is wrong. It means the forge is hot enough to shape what you wrote into something you can stand on. You began this journey with a question that wouldn't leave you alone. What if the love in your life isn't a beautiful accident but a clear assignment? Along the way, you learned to feel in your own body the difference between the loud spark of chemistry and the steady flame of calling. You discovered that real guidance speaks in coherence, not spectacle, and that the coincidences worth trusting leave you quieter and braver, not frantic or inflated. You stood before the mirror and let it become medicine, telling the truth about the old storms that rise in new rooms, choosing repair over performance, choosing connection over control. You shaped breath into direction by naming a shared purpose that fits in one honest sentence, and you walked that purpose into your calendar until the days began to carry your voice, even when neither of you was speaking. Then you entered the forge, where pressure arrived like weather, not punishment, and you learned to keep the bridge open through scarcity, misunderstanding, temptation, and fatigue, returning again and again to the mission you chose in clear air and proving it with small, faithful steps. From here, the road does not promise ease. It promises meaning. Mission love will keep asking you to become the kind of people your purpose requires. It will ask for apologies that actually strengthen the house you are building. It will ask for boundaries that protect what is sacred without hardening the heart. It will ask you to remember on ordinary Tuesdays that greatness is usually a rhythm before it is a moment. The assignment is not to perform a perfect story in public. It is to live a true one in private until its truth overflows on its own. When you wake on a day that feels heavy, you will have words to steady you. When you face a choice that looks purely practical, you will know how to hold it up to the light of why you are together. When the old ghosts try to turn a small frustration into an exit, you will recognize the script and write a different ending. Let this be the imprint you carry forward. Love, that is mission, widens your world. It makes you more honest, not more careful, more generous, not more exhausted, more courageous in the places that matter and softer in the places that heal. You will know you're on the path when your prayers start to sound like a huddle, when your home becomes a place where weary people leave lighter, when your differences stop competing and start composing a single instrument tuned to a larger song. The fruit shows up first in you, steadier sleep, cleaner words, quicker repair, and then, almost shyly, it appears around you as opportunities to bless beyond the two of you. That outward flow is not pressure, it is ripeness. When roots take, fruit follows. Hold close the simple practices that keep the mission real. Speak your one-line purpose softly before big decisions and on days that feel small. Let it guide how you spend your energy, how you make money serve meaning instead of the other way around, how you choose presence over noise when the world is loud. Read it when you're tempted by shortcuts that offer relief without growth. Read it when you're proud of yourselves, and especially when you're not. A mission kept only in the mind becomes folklore. A mission kept in the mouth and proved in the day becomes a life. When you stumble, and you will, close the loop quickly. Name what happened without embroidery. Own your part without self-harm. Offer a repair you can keep, and re-aim together. The point of a spiritual assignment is not to keep you from ever falling. It is to teach you how to rise as one. Every practiced return engraves trust a little deeper into the beams of the house you're building. Over time, you will find yourselves doing calmly what once felt impossible. And in that calm, you will recognize the signature of the one who commissioned this love in the first place. If this message steadied something in you, make sure it keeps finding you. Subscribe now so the next steps arrive right on time, and we can keep walking this path together with clarity and courage. Thank you for spending these minutes with me, for your attention and for your heart. Keep your love aimed, keep your steps faithful, and take tender care of the mission you've been given. I'm grateful you're here. Until next time.